Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Henry Balzarini, and this is Backyard Oasis. So what's the one fallback topic in most conversations? The weather. Used to be you had to wait for the forecast on the radio or the TV, or I even remember when you could call weather on your home phone. In Boston, it was WE61234, and then you'd get the weather report. We're talking last century. But now the weather is everywhere at your fingertips, apps, online sites, and social media. Here in Western Mass, there's a prominent source for weather, and his name is Dave Hayes. Dave's been living in the Connecticut River Valley of Western Mass for almost 40 years now, and he has a passion for the weather that he's had since he was 12 years old, when he first saw Bob Copeland on WCVB Channel 5 in Boston, which was WHDH when I was a kid.
Originally, yeah.
Yeah. And he saw Bob reporting on severe thunderstorms near his home, and within minutes, all the bright radar colors corresponded to severe thunderstorms that moved overhead, and Hayes was hooked. As a Greater Western Mass regional weather reporter and writer, Dave puts his own personal twist into his weather reports by adding humor, gratitude, and a passion for the weather. Over 80,000 people follow his reliable, interactive, and hyper-local weather reporting all year long on his social media, including Facebook, X, Blue Sky, his weekly newsletter, The Nut Letter, his Weather Nut iPhone app, which is how I follow him, and soon that it's on iPhone, it's soon going to be on Android.
Yes.
And as well as on his website, westernmassweather.com.
Yep.
And I swear, maybe I have 5 weather apps on my phone, but I usually only rely on yours.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because you're the most accurate. I followed it, and you're pretty much right on target as much as meteorology can be, right?
I appreciate it. I'm doing my best. Yeah, it's tricky.
Welcome, and I'm glad to be able to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me.
So, let's start from the beginning.
Yep.
Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Somerville, but I grew up in Wayland, Mass, right next to Framingham, about 20 miles west of Boston.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So Somerville, you were just a baby in
Yeah,
Somerville?
yeah. I was born at the hospital there, and then but grew up in Wayland.
And then finally ended up here in Western Mass?
Yeah. I came out to UMass Amherst when I was 18, back in 1988. I was a student. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, didn't have a lot of ambition back in those days. I chose UMass because I heard it was a fun place to go to school.
It was the party school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked to party back in those days. And they didn't have an essay either, so I didn't have a lot of ambition back in my early life. But yeah, I got deposited up here and went to school from 88 to 92, and just stuck around. I love it out here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice part of the world.
It's a beautiful part of the world. Yeah. Absolutely.
So what did you study in school?
You know, I just took random liberal arts courses. I eventually majored in sociology, but I didn't really do it with any sort of intent to become, social worker or work in that field or education or anything like that. But I did discover music, which is my other main passion in my life. My sophomore year, I ended up with a different roommate that I thought I was going to have, and it turned out he played the electric bass. And so all of a sudden, there was this bass in our dorm room, and I just started picking it up and playing it. And I had both he and another friend who's still a dear friend to this day, who's a professional musician down in Athens, Georgia, this guy named Dave DeMisi. They were both around me, and they saw that I had an ear for it, and they encouraged me. And so anyways, I kept it going. So to answer your question, I ended up taking a bunch of music classes. I probably could have had an official minor, but I took classes like melody and harmony and theory and counterpoint and stuff like that. So, that's what I studied.
That's the way to learn. If you can take a class, it should be something you're really interested in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you found that
Yeah. So luckily, I like to say music found me.
Music found you.
Yeah. Thank God. And it's still a big part of my life. I still perform, live out in the area and stuff. I don't do as many gigs as I used to, but I still play out.
The other skill and talent that I've noticed you have is writing.
Thank you.
What is your background in that? Or what did you?
There really isn't a background in it. I mean, the only thing I can attribute it to is, I love all the arts. I love all things creative, but I did have a job for about 20 years off and on, sometimes full-time, sometimes part-time. I was a paralegal for an attorney around here named Ken Lieberman, who's also still a dear friend. And Ken was a personal injury attorney, and so he would get people who got in motor vehicle accidents and stuff like that, and they would be injured, and you would need to kind of gather all the medical records and write the story of what happened to these people and the severity of their injuries and the timeline of everything. And so and they're called settlement demands. And so I kind of got experience writing a lot of kind of technical writing through that. And I think that has, to the best that I can tell, I think that played into my writing about the weather, at least the technical aspects of it. I had that experience. And so then when I started writing about the weather, starting 14, 15 years ago at this point, I think that helped with that. And then I also combined just my love of writing and prose and poetry and stuff like that, and just kind of developed from there. And I think it's like anything in life. The more you do something, the better you can get at it over time. If you keep practicing, even when you don't feel like it, And there's times where I get up in the morning and I'm tired or I don't feel like it, but that's my job now, so I do it. And I think there's something about showing up every day or showing up a lot and doing something over and over that you get better at what you do, So I think that has also helped me. The weather doesn't sleep.
The weather doesn't
It just keeps going every day.
It cries sometimes.
Yeah, it does a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that helped. That's also helped me. Just I've had this daily practice for literally 13 years now. So
wow. Let's talk about the weather.
Yeah.
So who are your influences and inspirations? You mentioned Bob Copeland.
Well, yeah. Don Kent is the first guy. He's really the whole start of New England weather.
Yep.
for anybody who's into the weather in New England. He started on the radio in the 30s and was on the TV when TV first came in. I think WBZ started in 1948. I think it was the first TV station in Boston.
Yeah.
And he was right there. So when I was a kid in the 70s, I would see him on Boston TV. So that was into the early 80s, and he retired. And Bob Copeland was a direct kind of weather disciple of Don's. He studied under Don. Don, mentored him, and so it was Don Kent to Bob Copeland, and then all those guys like Dick Albert and Bruce Schwegler, who lived in the same town that I grew up in, actually.
Yeah.
And Harvey Leonard, of course, the main guy who called the blizzard of '78 when everyone else was kind of thinking it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. Barry Burbank, all the old Boston folks.
You know them all.
Yeah, and then to the current day, it's Tim Kelly, Matt Noyes. The Noyes is both Danielle and Matt, their husband and wife team. And they are...
Where are they? What station are they?
They're in Boston. Well, they were on NBC 10 Boston. They were on NECN first. Tim Kelly joined in 92. I think he was the chief meteorologist for NECN for years. And then Matt Noyes joined in 2002. And then I think somehow NECN broke off and became NBC 10 Boston, or... I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but Matt was the chief meteorologist there for years, and then he struck out and he's doing his own thing now.
So weather people are celebrities.
Well, if they're broadcasters, they are, yeah.
Well, you're a local celebrity, I would say. So, why are weather people celebrities?
I don't know why weather people are celebrities. I guess it's just, I think in my opinion, if you're into you get into the weather because you love it, because part of you is a nerd and a geek, and you just love those kinds of things. But I think part of it has to do with a desire to serve the public safety.
Yep.
And I think that's a big part of it. And so I think maybe if you're kind of into it for the quote unquote right reasons, I guess that's debatable. But to me, that is the right reason to be mainly into it. Is you want to serve the public safety. You want to try to help people be aware and informed of what's going on, because the weather can get really hairy and it can injure or kill people if it gets really severe.
And we're all affected by it.
Yeah, and we're all affected by it, and it impacts businesses negatively and all sorts of things. So, maybe the celebrity part of that is that there's kind of someone out there looking out for people
That we rely on.
Yeah,
And they're a person.
and they're a person. Yeah, and so and that's how I feel about what I do, is that I'm definitely trying to look out for my community and trying to make sure I get people the info that they need so they're not caught off guard as much as I can as meteorology it's tricky business, trying to get it right all the time. So, especially in New England.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you remember Shelby Scott.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember Shelby Scott.
Shelby Scott used to always be, they used to throw her out into the
Oh,
worst
yeah,
weather
she was
conditions.
the first one that they threw out into the weather conditions. That's right.
So, I mean, that's entertainment. Not for Shelby, or maybe it was, but for the people watching, there's entertainment. So the weather people are entertainers as well.
They can be, yeah. And some I think some outlets focus more on that part of it than others do. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I would think you fit into the entertainer, profile, but you're also obviously very knowledgeable. But so, how do you? What are your tools? I mean, how do you get the weather information? And
well, I mean, certainly a big part of it is the National Weather Service. It's something we've all paid into for 155 years, or more, to set up all those observation stations and tools and stuff like that. So the National Weather Service is one. I mean, early on, I would study the Weather Channel back in the 90s, early to mid 90s, when I started getting cable and stuff like that.
So actively studying it as
I would
someone who wants to know more about the details.
So in other words, back in like the mid 90s, I lived in Northampton, and I lived with 3 other musician friends of mine. And it'd be like 10:30 in the morning, and if I wasn't working, I'd be watching the Weather Channel, watching thunderstorms in Oklahoma. My friends would be walking by me in the living room like, "What is wrong with you?"
Like, we're not in Oklahoma.
Why do you care? It's just like, because I'm interested. So it was the Weather Channel at first, and then early on, it was studying the Boston meteorologist when I was a kid. Back before remote control, I'd be 2 inches from the TV, especially during the winter, flipping back and forth between channel 4, 5, and 7. At if it was in the evening around 6:13 p.m., I'd be that's when the first weather broadcast would be. I knew exactly like what times they roughly came on. And I would go back and forth and hear what they had to say. And if it was a meteorologist like Harvey Leonard that liked to talk a little bit about why the weather was doing what it was doing, then I would focus more on those folks. So it started there, and then it went to the Weather Channel, and then online sources, like weather.gov, National Weather Service, and then there's other meteorologists that I found over time that are kind of quote unquote upstream of the Western Mass region that I really have come to, think are really, really smart people. And I'll read some of their discussions. I'll pay for some of those services so I can access their thinking and stuff.
So you know what's going on miles away, but it's close to us, so you know how it's going to affect our weather.
Yeah, I mean, I try to discern that as much as I can.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And then, so there's paid services, there's free services, there's all sorts of model guidance available. So I kind of take all that and...
So your typical day, in terms of getting ready to write your report,
Yep.
You have a regular pattern that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, more or less, yeah. I mean, it's basically just doing that, like I'll read the area forecast discussions of the Boston National Weather Service office and the Albany National Weather Service office. Those are the two that really pertain the most our region unless really strong weather's coming up from the south. Then I'll look at Upton, New York, which is on Long Island and covers New York City and the tri-state area down that way. Rarely do I sometimes I'll look at even Binghamton, New York, if it's a big winter storm, and see what's coming from further west of us. Rarely do I look at Burlington, Vermont. We don't usually get weather coming really powerfully from the north that I want to see what they have to say about it. So I'll read those. I'll look at the model guidance. I'll try to look at trends and stuff and different weather variables and look at observations and try to put the story together.
So you're self-educated in the weather.
I am self-educated. Yeah, I don't have. I took a meteorology class, like an intro class at UMass, just on a whim. But back in those days, I remember saying, I want to be a meteorologist. And my friend Tony was like, what are you talking about? Like, you got to study physics and stuff, and it's difficult. And I was back in those days, I was like, well, I don't want to do anything difficult. So,
but you learned the way you learned.
Yeah, I learned the way that I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite impressive from, what you write.
Thank you.
So how did your public presence begin?
It began as a result of the Springfield tornado on June 1, 2011, which we just had the 15-year anniversary of 9 days ago now. And I, at that point in time, on that day, I had completely sworn off Facebook and all social media. I couldn't stand it. I was done with it. I had been on it. I didn't like it anymore. I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't like what it was doing. And so I was off. I deactivated my account. It was over. And then that storm hit, and that was one of the most powerful storms to hit our region in history, at least in modern history. And I heard from other friends that people on Facebook, my friends who were still on Facebook, were like kind of chatting about me and wondering what I thought about it and what I had to say about it. And then so there was something there that was like, and back in those days, my, I was struggling with self-esteem stuff and other things, internal stuff. And I was like, what? I'm like, someone thinks that what I have to say could be useful. And so that like kind of sparked something in me. And then I realized that there's, at that time, there was these interest pages that were being put out. You could start an interest page. You could start a music page. You could start a page for any interest that you have, separate from your personal account. And so then, I got back on Facebook, and then I started reporting. I first got back on Facebook. I started reporting on my personal page, and then there's one guy in particular was just like not that interested in it. He would like
friend of yours?
Just a guy, a friend, yeah. But at that time an acquaintance, and then I was just like, well, I don't want to upset anybody, so then I was like, oh, there's these pages. Well, my friends who want to follow what I have to say about the weather can follow me there. Yeah. It was my thought.
Their choice.
It was their choice, and so then I said, well, what will it be? And then I was like, well, I'll start 2 pages. One will be Dave Hayes, the Weather Nut, and one will be Dave Hayes, the musician. And, because the Weather Nut's just a common slang term for an enthusiast, so a weather enthusiast. So anyway, I started those 2 pages, and that was August 7th, 2011, so it's almost been 15 years. And then I just kind of reported, occasionally for a year. I mean, that was a big year. I mean, we had Tropical Storm Irene, which caused all the flooding.
Right.
Of course, the tornado that had already happened, and then we had the Halloween nor'easter, October 29th, 2011.
Snow on Halloween, yes, I remember.
Absolutely, that. Yeah. We got a foot of snow in the valley, and it took down power. Some people didn't have power for 2 weeks. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I reported on like kind of the bigger events, but I didn't do it every day. And then about a year later, Hurricane Sandy started kind of barreling up the coast in late October of 2012. And for a while there, it looked like it was going to come right up into Western Mass. And so I started reporting a lot on it. And I had about 200 people following my page at that point, and people started sharing my posts. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I didn't even get it, really. And then through that, luckily that's, well, for us anyways, that storm took a left turn and spared us mostly. But my audience grew from about 200 to 650 people. It more than tripled in like a few days. I was like, wow. And so then I started doing it more. That encouraged me to do it more because people seemed to be liking the content. And then the blizzard of 2013 came in February 8, 9 of 2013. And then my audience went over 1,000 people, and that's when something clicked, where people were telling me, this is really helpful. We love what you're doing. And I just was just like, all of a sudden, like, my weather reporting kind of became an instrument of self-esteem for me. And also something where I felt like I could be helpful and useful, which was really important to me for a few different reasons. And so I just started doing it every day from that point forward. And then the next winter was the winter of 2013, 2014, and that was a major winter. We hadn't had a winter like that since the 90s, really. Since the 95, 96 was the last really big winter we had. And that 2013, 2014 was a big winter. It was very cold and very snowy. And my audience quadrupled again, but this time it was from like 2,000 to almost 10,000 people. And then a lot of people started taking notice of what I was doing, and then I got on, the Daily Hampshire Gazette did a front page story on me, and I was talking on the radio a little bit, and all of a sudden it was kind of a thing kind of happened, and so then I just was like, I'm in.
You were, so with all this stuff that was happening around you, you were part of the positive part of a perfect storm. It's like all this weather happening, and your weather stuff just blossomed.
Yeah, it just took off, and I also caught the social. I was lucky with my timing, and then I caught the social media wave before it became overly restrictive in terms of the algorithm really throttling you back and forcing you to pay money for ambiguous, positive excess reach. They don't really tell you. You can say, well, I'd like to spend $100 to boost this post, and they're like, well, you'll reach anywhere between 1,800 and 7,300 additional people, and you're kind of like, what?
So a lot of crap is going on.
Yeah, and so I was lucky in that I when I posted stuff, just about everybody saw it in their Facebook feed, and also back then there was a lot less people on Facebook. There were less Facebook pages, so there was less clutter. So I kind of somehow I stood out more.
So who are your audience, would you say?
Well, I think my main part of my audience is the Pioneer Valley of Western Mass.
Yeah.
From Greenfield down to Springfield,
The fact that people are commenting on your weather as you're reporting it gives you such up-to-date stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It's cool. It's a cool, and there's things that I want to do with that over time to try to better visualize that, whether it's on my website or on my mobile app, to try to train people to report things with a certain standard, and then have it become visualized on a map so people can see it and also read it if they wanted to. But I've coined this term, the greater Western Mass region, which to me is the 4 counties of Western Massachusetts, Berkshire, Franklin, Hampshire, Hampden, and then the counties in New England that border it, which is all of southern Vermont, Bennington County, Windham County, southwest New Hampshire, where Keene is, that's Cheshire County, Worcester County to the east, which I consider to be central Massachusetts, and then the 4 counties of northern Connecticut. I'll talk about the Taconics too, just to our west, because they'll in the wintertime especially, they'll have similar weather as to the Berkshire, like the Berkshires do. But that's like a 10,000 square mile region that I consider that's my coverage region. I don't go beyond it. I'm not trying to get bigger in terms of reaching people outside of that region, because it seems like everybody wants to get bigger and cover more, and I would rather try to over time focus more on kind of what I know and kind of what my home region is.
You're not the Weather Channel. You're
No.
the local guy weather is local.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, you get pretty detailed in some of your forecasts in this, and
Yep.
me, I'm not a science person, so I'll sometimes when I go to your site, most of it is over my head,
Yeah.
so to speak. But But your writing pulls me in. Mm-hmm. That's what gets me interested in. For instance, you have your own writing style, which is quite entertaining. If I can quote you,
Sure.
All the stuff about the the stratocumulus clouds.
Different cloud types and stuff. Yeah.
But then you come up with the line, "Only isolated showers until dinner hours." So your humor and some of your other stuff, and on your website you have a link to your haikus.
Yes.
I have one. Do you want to read it?
Sure.
It's at the bottom of the page here.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Stratocumulus, milky white with gray udders, protective blanket.
You're a star.
Thanks, man.
Fun stuff. So you always end your forecast with the Joseph Campbell "Follow Your Bliss" quote.
Yes.
What "Follow Your Bliss" is the famous piece of the quote. What's the entire quote?
And it's funny. I can't. I don't have it memorized.
No.
But it's something to the effect that, when you follow what you love and follow your bliss, there's doors that will open for you. And that can mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean like you're going to follow your bliss and all of a sudden you're going to make $1 million but things happen when you do that. I really believe that even if, so many people are so busy, just kind of surviving generally, but working and raising families and, being a part of community and all that kind of, human stuff. But even if you can even if you can squeeze out 5 or 10 minutes a day, or 5 or 10 minutes a week to something that you enjoy, it's just going to improve the quality of your life that much more, even if it's this small little incremental nudge. I think it's important if you can. I mean, not everybody knows. Not everybody's aware of what they love to do.
Some people don't know till they get much older.
Yeah, and some people never find it, unfortunately.
It's sad.
I mean, it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
It's sometimes there's some folks that just have to be so focused on surviving that's what they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not talking down to that at all.
But it's nice to encourage that.
Yeah, it's nice to encourage that. It's just like even if you like fixing cars, it's just or something you're like working on your like doing your own oil changes, or you like planting you gotta. The more you can do stuff that you enjoy, and you don't have to be like passionate about it or love it, but you can just be interested. And the more you do things that you're interested in, I think it improves the quality of your life. And then you also never know where it's going to take you. In my case, I just started writing about the weather because I like to write about it. I didn't have any idea that anyone would care at all about what I had to say about the weather. I did not start this thinking like this is going to turn into something. I just did it because I love to do it. And when you do something that you enjoy and then you also share it with other people, you can't know what might happen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's the flow. You're just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you mentioned that you'd like to do is music.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you brought your guitar with you.
Yeah.
Would you like to do a song for us?
Yeah, I'll just have a little instrumental thing.
Yeah.
I'll play. It's a minute or two. It's not long, but
wonderful.
I'd love to.
For it.
Yeah, let me get my guitar. Thank you.
Thank you. What's the name of the song? Does it have a name?
It doesn't have a name, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. My glasses on so I can see my guitar. I'm not a young man, Henry.
a treat. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where do people find you? I'm going to put the list of your links on the description to the show.
Yeah.
But just someone who just wants to find your podcast,
Sure, yeah.
Where do they go?
My website is westernmassweather.com. I post my reports there every day. I also post on my Facebook page, Dave Hayes the Weather Nut. The URL is facebook.com/westernmassweather. I'm there every day. And then I also post on my X/Twitter account and on Blue Sky. And I also have my own mobile app out now on iPhone for now. You can go to the App Store. It's free, and you can just type in the Weather Nut. And usually it's the second one that shows up as a little brown acorn icon. And so you can download that for iPhone. The Android app is in the testing phase right now. That'll come out later this summer. So I'll have that out for Android. That'll also be free. And and I'm also on the river on 93.9 Mondays and Friday mornings at 7:30 a.m. with my old buddy Steve Sanderson.
Okay.
I call in there twice a week, kind of the week ahead and then the weekend ahead. westernmassweather.com is also where you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter, and that's the hub for everything.
And how do you support yourself?
I support myself largely through community donated support, voluntary donations. I usually once a year in the wintertime, I do an annual support drive that runs about 5 weeks or so. And I reach out to people and they offer support that way, which is the lion's share of how I am able to make a living at this. I also have some sponsors. I have Gerard Gazy Bates Law Firm in Northampton is my main sponsor. And then I also have Historic Deerfield is my weekend sponsor. And now Summerlin Floors in Amherst as a kind of an afternoon post sponsor. And and that's how I kind of put my living together.
Good. Keep it going.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or somewhere else, and share it with a link. And until next time, I'm Henry Balzarini, and thank you for listening.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.